Good morning. Welcome and happy National Apprenticeship Week. I am so happy to be kicking off this exciting week of events with a discussion about youth apprenticeship here in our state. We have an amazing panel here today to talk about youth apprenticeship. We will hear from policymakers, apprenticeship sponsors, educators, and we have a youth apprentice joining us today as well. Many of you already know that Governor Newsom has set an ambitious goal for California to serve 500,000 apprentices by the year 2029. Today, we will hear about how so many stakeholders are coming together in our state to make that happen. We will hear about the significant investments that California is making in youth apprenticeship. And we will also hear from educators who are working on youth apprenticeship programs, an apprenticeship sponsor, and a youth apprentice. Before I introduce our incredible panel, please let me take a minute to introduce myself. I'm Amy Bergen, Chief of the Apprenticeship and Workforce Innovation Unit at the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, and I'll be our moderator for today's discussion. Unfortunately, we will not have time for a live question and answer session, but we do encourage you to submit your questions to us in the chat or by email, and we will do our best to answer them. Our goal today is to provide you with an overview of how California is investing in youth apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship. I'm so happy to introduce our panel, who will lead us in a robust discussion about this topic. Our panelists today are Katie Hagan, Director of the Department of Industrial Relations, Pam Knapp, Director of College and Career Readiness for the San Joaquin County Office of Education, Angel Castro, our youth apprentice, Dr. Randy Wolf, Executive Director for the Early Care and Education Pathways to Success, Cecilia Terrazas, Diversity Inclusion Coordinator with the Oakland Unified School District, Allison Frenzel, Program Specialist for the California Department of Education and a California Youth Apprenticeship Committee member, and Adele Burns, the Deputy Chief for the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. And it is my distinct honor to first introduce Katie Hagan, the Director of the Department of Industrial Relations. Director Hagan leads the division in its efforts to improve the working conditions for California's wage earners and to advance opportunities for profitable employment in California. I've had the pleasure of working with Director Hagan, and she has been a champion for the apprenticeship model. Director Hagan, let's talk a little bit about Governor Newsom's Freedom to Succeed executive order, which directs state leaders in education and workforce development to partner with stakeholders that include labor, business, and community groups to develop a master plan on career education. Youth apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship is a key component of career education in California. So tell us, how will youth apprenticeship contribute to our state's master plan?
Well, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, everybody. And wow, what an impressive panel. Really happy to be here today. Thanks for everyone who's attending online, and just want to thank my team for putting on this great event. So thanks for the question. The Department of Industrial Relations and our Division of Apprenticeship is a very enthusiastic partner in Governor Newsom's Freedom to Succeed executive order. And since apprenticeship already brings together a variety of stakeholders, including unions, employees, employers, educators, workforce boards, and community-based organizations, this executive order is aiming to also convene stakeholders across the education and workforce system to align their efforts to effectively integrate the many investments that California has made in career pathways development. We are already joining this work to collaborate across state entities, and we're collaborating with labor agency, the community colleges, the California state universities, unions, workforce boards, and of course, the California Department of Education, whom we have here today in part of this conversation. And Allison, thank you for joining us today. We recognize how important it is for all of us to work together and align our efforts to really create easily navigable career pathways for young folks and to fill the needs of employers statewide. In recent years, California has made some remarkable investments into education and workforce development, and this master plan is really about how we make sure to align investment entities to maximize the collective impact of those investments. At DIR, a few areas of investments include $135 million over 3 years into the apprenticeship innovation funding to help sustain and scale apprenticeship across many sectors, $45 million over 3 years into the Women in Construction Priority Program, which the Division of Apprenticeship Standards has already awarded $25 million in grants through the Equal Representation in Construction Apprenticeship Program. And then, of course, most relevant to today's conversation, $65 million over 3 years into the California Opportunity Youth Apprenticeship Grant Program. And we are all very excited that later in this webinar today to be hearing from Adele about the structure of this funding. So be sure to stick around to the end of the session for that breaking news on youth apprenticeship funding. These are just the funding sources that DIR is directly overseeing in the apprenticeship space. But of course, there have been other big investments, such as the High Road Training Partnership Funds administered by the California Workforce Development Board, sustained and increased investment of $30 million per year into the California Apprenticeship Initiative Grants, or CAI, which the California Community College Chancellor's Office administers. And I want to be sure to call out that these CAI grants are currently open with a due date of January 15th. Therefore, if you're building a youth apprenticeship program, especially in collaboration with any branch of the K-12 and community college system, these grants are critical in planning and launching funds for new programs. I know I've shared a lot of information here, but know that if you go to our website, we have funding resources pages with links to all of the funding sources I just mentioned. And we have worked hard to share more information, both with our collaborative partners across the state and of course with the public, to help you all navigate these funding opportunities.
That's great. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about how youth apprenticeships can create pathways for California's youth.
Well, one of the key goals of the Career Education Master Plan is to ensure that high schoolers are encouraged to explore well-paying careers and that they're guided on a pathway to that career. And I can't think of a better model than the Earn and Learn model. Providing students with opportunities to learn real-life career skills in their education, preferably for pay. Students shouldn't have to take on a substantial debt or navigate, complicated bureaucracies as they prepare for their careers. We really see that the development of a system of youth apprenticeship in California is a key component of meeting these big goals. Apprenticeship creates opportunities for these earn and learn pathways into a variety of careers. And due to the various ways that California subsidizes the training, apprentices come out debt-free and more efficiently trained for a career. As we have been embarking on this work to build a system of youth apprenticeship, we recognize that there are two key areas of this work: helping out of school youth, sometimes referred to as opportunity youth, which is 16 to 24-year-olds that are disconnected from our education system. And we want to help to get opportunity youth connected into apprenticeship opportunities. Then separately, there is the exciting challenge of in-school youth apprenticeship, and we're working closely with both the California Youth Apprenticeship Committee and the California Department of Education to find the most effective ways to integrate high school youth apprenticeship and high school pre-apprenticeships into their foundational CTE and guided pathways work. I'm really looking forward to our program today so that you all can hear more about some of the great work already happening, and we hope to be partners in replicating and scaling this work across the state. Both of these areas of work within school youth and out of school youth apprenticeship are equally important in reaching the big and important goals of creating career pathways for California youth.
What is California doing to promote sustainable, high-quality youth apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. Governor Newsom has not only put forth the Career Education Executive Order, but also, if you remember a while back, set a very ambitious goal of serving 500,000 apprentices by 2029. And we've done some important planning and strategizing to meet that goal, including developing a 5-point plan to advance apprenticeship in California. Again, those that can be found on our website. And supporting youth apprenticeship for in-school and out-of-school youth is one of those 5 points. Therefore, this has been at the center of our strategy to expand apprenticeship. And of course, all the investments that I mentioned earlier are also a key component of how the state has invested into this strategy. And over the past 2 years since developing this strategy and receiving the funding, the Division of Apprenticeship Standards has convened the California Youth Apprenticeship Committee to advise the department on 3 areas. First, to advise on the most effective use of the California Opportunity Youth Apprenticeship funding. Secondly, to advise on any definitions of youth or pre-apprenticeship and any policy recommendations around expanding youth apprenticeship. And finally, to advise on how we as a state structure our work to expand youth apprenticeship in collaboration with our education and workforce partners. The California Youth Apprenticeship Committee is a working group comprised of stakeholders from multiple agencies, including the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, the California Department of Education, the Community College's Chancellor's Office, apprenticeship programs, and community-based organizations. And you can find the full list of our members on our website. And I will let Allison speak more later about the progress of that work. The committee will be arriving at a set of recommendations by July of 2024, and we are charging forward with this work. We're so thrilled to be bringing together this event today in celebration of National Apprenticeship Week, and grateful to all the speakers for joining us, not only for this event, but in this important work of expanding youth apprenticeship. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Director Hagan. Next, I would like to introduce Pam Knapp. Pam is the Director of College and Career Readiness at the San Joaquin County Office of Education in Stockton. She leads a high school apprenticeship program called ARCH, which stands for Apprenticeship Reaching Career Horizons. The ARCH program assists high school students in becoming registered apprentices. Thank you so much for joining us today, Pam. Tell us a little bit about the ARCH program.
Thanks, Amy. It's a pleasure to be here, and happy National Apprenticeship Week, everybody. This is a great way to kick off the week. ARCH, Apprenticeships Reaching Career Horizons, is the first in the state of California registered apprenticeship program for students starting their junior year of high school while taking concurrent classes at our local community college. As you know, an apprenticeship requires 2,000 hours of on-the-job training and then supplemental instruction known as related supplemental instruction. And so our program has been structured to have that related instruction through our local community college, San Joaquin Delta College, so that our students are enrolled in college concurrently while completing high school and earning a paycheck, learning on the job. As Director Hagan said, these apprentices are learning real life career skills while getting paid and hoping to advance in this profession for their future. It's an exciting opportunity. We have 3 current running occupations that have been approved by the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. Our first occupation was Information Technology Support Specialist. The second occupation is Teacher's Aide Paraprofessionals. And the third occupation is Assistant Farm Manager. Currently, all of our employers are school districts in San Joaquin County, and students are employed and receiving a paycheck while taking classes at San Joaquin Delta College, concurrently enrolled in their high school. So it is the biggest win-win for our high school students. It's the highest form of work-based learning that our students can achieve. And it's just a really exciting time for us to partner with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, the Department of Education, and all of our community partners as well to get this off the ground. We started with, like I said, IT with 6 apprentices, and to date, we have registered 17 apprentices, and at 18, we just registered one more last week. And so, again, these are all students who start at the age of 16.
And recently had a graduation, right?
Absolutely. That has honestly been the culmination of my career, where I spent 20 years as a high school counselor and CTE director working with students one-to-one. And my life ambition is to always work with students to help them find life after high school and sustainable opportunities for life after high school. An apprenticeship is that best opportunity for students to actually develop skills at a young age to determine if this is really the career trajectory that they want to take. And since it's coupled with community college classes, students can transfer all of those classes if they choose to move on toward a 4-year degree.
So tell us, how can county offices of education assist school districts in launching a youth apprenticeship opportunity?
That's a great question. As I mentioned, I worked for 20 years at a school district, and I honestly knew nothing about apprenticeships. I didn't have any understanding that students could actually enter them starting at the age of 16. And so I think first and foremost, we need to get the word out to county offices. And that's one of the things that we're really doing. I certainly appreciate all of the work through the Division of Apprenticeship Standards and the California Youth Apprenticeship Committee, and making sure this information is getting out. But County Office of Educations can embrace this as we have and serve as an intermediary. Essentially, our County Office of Education is the conduit between the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, our local school districts, who are the employers, and the students. Our County Office of Education, through a wonderful staff of people who are on our team, have been tracking all of our apprentices' hours. We have been working closely with San Joaquin Delta College to get the students' grades from their classes. We hold and convene the monthly San Joaquin County High School Apprenticeship Committee meetings, where we all vote, and we make sure that we are staying on top of the success of our apprentices. And so if this could be something that all county offices of education could embrace in some way or another, I have been speaking up and down the state of California, trying to share this vision and explain that we are, like I said, the conduit where we can work with the school districts and employers. We're working desperately to get private employers on board to hire our youth. And a lot of times employers don't have the time to work through the paperwork with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards and all of the requirements. That's where we step in. We take care of all of that. And that's how we're acting as an intermediary.
And how are you seeing these opportunities impact apprentices and change lives?
Well, as we heard, we've had just one graduate because the program is designed to take 3 years minimally. We need to keep in mind we're working with 16 and 17-year-old high school students. I'd like everybody on this call to think back when you were 16 and 17, and did you know what you wanted to do for the rest of your life? I think that this is a huge impact whereby students are getting the opportunity to actually work alongside of professionals in a great career pathway while taking coursework that supplements and works with what they're doing in the classroom. Recently, I heard from an apprentice who said, while they were on the job, actually, I heard from the apprentice's supervisor that the apprentice said, "Oh my gosh, this is so great. I just learned this in class, and now you're teaching me this on the job." And then to just put the cherry on the top of all of this ice cream sundae that we're talking about, my goodness, these students are getting paid. I mean, this is helping to change lifestyles and help lift up most of our students who really need this type of lifting up. And they're learning those real world career skills that honestly you cannot get by reading a book or watching a video. You have to learn by doing. And so this apprenticeship model is just the best opportunity for our students. And I certainly hope that our entire state and nation can jump on this and recognize that students need to get paid while earning. And this program has, like I said, concurrent college classes. So students are college students and earning a paycheck while learning. So I think you can tell I'm pretty enthusiastic about it.
Absolutely. I love your enthusiasm about it. It's just contagious.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today and talking to us about the ARCH program. I would now like to introduce Angel Castro. We are very excited to have Angel here with us today. Angel is currently an apprentice with the San Joaquin ARCH program. Hi, Angel.
Hello.
Tell us, what was your journey to finding this apprenticeship opportunity?
Well, it started when I heard about it in the announcements. They were telling about an IT job, and I was like, wow. And at the time I was watching some videos, trying to learn more about technology. So like the timing was just perfect, really. Um, I heard about it. I talked to my counselor about it. Miss Peterson, she helped me a lot through that, helping me getting the information and everything. And then Jose just gave me the opportunity to be able to learn more about it, and I'm super grateful for them.
Why did you decide to join an apprenticeship program?
Well, I've always had like something just that made me think about like background things, like things that no one really thinks about, like how a printer would work, how a computer works, the background things. And well, a lot of it relates to IT. So it got me thinking, and I was like, maybe this is something I would like. And the job opportunity, when I talked to my counselor, she gave me more information about it, and I was like, wow, this really like relates to what I would want to do in my future. And it was just super great timing, really.
So tell us a little bit about your experience as an apprentice, kind of your day-to-day life as an apprentice.
Well, so I started off with school. Obviously, I'm a senior, so after school, I get out at fifth period. I take my sixth period as a work experience, so I can come get here earlier. And I usually we get here, me and Jose, we talk about a little bit what he's done throughout the day. His he has cabinet meetings today, but we would usually talk about like something like fixing the microphones, the audio. Um Device management is a big one that he has me do a lot, because we well, device management is really just a really important thing in schools, because if we don't know where the devices are, well, we can't really operate them. And I know he's told me a lot about Mac OS operating systems, how they're not as compatible with as a IO as sorry, they're not
Okay.
as compatible as the Windows operating system. And I know we talk about a lot about that. Um, he has me image the computers, and he has me uh apply IP addresses onto the computers, which was a really good learning experience for me. That was super cool to see, like, because that was part of the thing that I wanted to learn, more of the background information of things. So
What are some of the challenges that you've faced?
um well, honestly, I don't think I've really been challenged, because honestly, the people just around me, they've really helped me through a lot. Anything I need help with, like my classes, I know Jose, and I have five other people that work here with me. So two of them are doing classes themselves too, so they can help me with my classes a lot. Things I don't understand, they can come over here and be like, oh yeah, this works like this. Um just things like that. So the classes, I say, would be the most challenging thing that I had to do, but even then I asked my coworkers for help, and they're happy to help me. So
That's great. And then the last question that I have for you is, do you have any advice for someone who is considering apprenticeship as a career pathway?
I would say that if they had any interest in working in any technology field, to apply for it, because it helps you learn a lot of different fields in IT. And I have two coworkers right now that are doing classes with me. One of them is trying to be more of like a software engineer, and the other one's going more into security. So that's like just a great example of what two different fields of IT could look that are very different. And they talk to me a lot about it. They're like, "Oh yeah, in security you can work with casino. I know casinos was a big one that like, they need a lot of security." And then software engineering, that was a good one because like he he programs games, so that was pretty cool to see. And he's actually, I think that was the one where I've gone more into a little bit more of software engineering. So I would say, go for it. You got nothing to lose. So
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Angel, and we all wish you just the best of luck in your apprenticeship and your endeavors.
thank you so much.
And now I would like to introduce Randy Wolf. Dr. Wolf is the Executive Director of the Early Care and Education Pathways to Success, often called ESAPS. And ESAPS is a registered apprenticeship sponsor and national intermediary for the early care and education industry. ESAPS is nationally recognized for its pioneering efforts in creating early care and education registered apprenticeships and building the field to encourage national replication and expansion. Hi, Dr. Wolf. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us about the ESAPS Youth Pre-Apprenticeship and Apprenticeship programs.
Okay, sure. So let me first frame this by giving just a quick overview of what ESAPS is, because you have to sort of understand our youth work within the bigger context of what we do. So as you said, ESAPS is both a sponsor and an intermediary, which means we, on the one hand, take the responsibility of registering and all the legal and fiscal responsibility of the programs that we run. But we are also an intermediary. We provide training and technical assistance to get projects developed and launched and sustained. At the moment in California, we're working in 10 counties. We have with 13 community colleges, and we have 5 registered apprenticeship. It's the language of the world of apprenticeship. We have 5 registered apprenticeships. Associate, this is all within the realm of early care and education. Associate teacher, teacher, lead teacher, expanded learning, which is sort of the new term for after school care, and home visitors. We have 20 programs that are offering one or more of those 5 apprenticeships. At the moment, we have about 350 active apprentices and about 50 employers. So that's the big picture of who we are. In terms of youth, it was a natural thing for us to want to expand into the world of youth apprenticeship because, for one thing, there is, as much as there is an ECE workforce crisis level shortage in this country, there's also an aging ECE workforce. And so we know that if we don't start working with younger people and bringing in younger workers, we're going to have real problems ahead of us. But the other reason is because, sorry, there was a second reason. It will come back to me. I apologize, Amy. It completely escaped me. I will get back to that. Sorry. Anyway, so, oh, I know, I remembered it. Okay. The second reason is because as we explore youth apprenticeship, I think it's going to be very important as we really build this whole system out to make sure there are apprenticeship programs for young people who are interested in working with people in people-centered occupations. And I think a lot of times the focus has been on, industries that pay well, because we're very interested, everybody's interested in getting young people, especially young people in underrepresented communities and communities that have not been resourced sufficiently to have those kind of opportunities. At the same time, there are a lot of young people and a lot of adults where, for one reason or another, earning capacity is not the first priority or the only priority. And so by having a youth apprenticeship that looks at early care and education, it also provides a starting point for young people who want to work in K-12 education, in healthcare, in social work, in the public sector, as well as in early care and education. So it was for those reasons that we decided to sort of venture into this whole world. We've been working in the sphere, in the sort of the realm of youth apprenticeship since 2018. Currently, we have work going on in 3 counties. We have youth apprenticeship programs with two different high school districts in Contra Costa County. With Alameda County, we have 2 programs. One is with with Oakland Unified School District, which you'll hear about in a minute, and the other is with an ROP, a regional. I always forget what ROP stands for. Regional Occupational Program in the southern end of Alameda County. And then we have our youth pre-apprenticeship program in San Joaquin County that is in part collaborating with Pam's County Office of Ed. In all of those 5 cohorts or 5 programs, we have a little over 100 apprentices at the moment. And all of them, one way or another, are working towards their associate teacher permit, which means by the time they start in their junior year, by the time they graduate high school, they will have taken 4 college courses, either as dual credit or as ROP credit. There's various ways that you can go about that. And in earning those 4 college courses, plus they will have earned at least 150 paid on-the-job training hours. And those 2 things are what's required to earn your associate teacher permit. And the associate teacher permit is an industry recognized credential. It's sponsored by the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. With that credential, you can get a job, an entry-level position in early care and education, just about anywhere, so that you graduate high school and go into college career ready. And this is where the story gets a little complicated. As Pam said, a registered apprenticeship means you have to have 2,000 hours of paid on-the-job training. And given the way high schools are structured right now, it's pretty much impossible to have a young person start in their junior year and finish 2,000 hours of paid on-the-job training by the time they graduate high school. They can usually work summers in programs that, with employers that we are working with. It's not just any job. It's a job placement, but they'll earn probably 250 or 300 hours over each summer, the summer between junior and senior year and the summer between senior and college. So that means they go into college with about 600 hours. That's not enough for them to get to be considered apprentices. So as Pam explained, you can build an apprenticeship that then includes the first year of college, and then it would be an apprenticeship. But in our case, we just decided that you couldn't market to 10th graders a project that would take 3 or 4 years to finish. So we market it. Those first 2 years are called a pre-apprenticeship. It is a registered pre-apprenticeship with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. And when they finish and they graduate high school, we have, like I said, 5 apprenticeship programs that they can move into straight into college. The 600 hours they will have earned are grandfathered in towards their on-the-job training for their apprenticeship. The 4 college courses are all grandfathered in. So it really becomes a pathway, a stackable pathway. They start in high school, then they can complete not only in the college that's nearest to their high school, but we have programs in 10 counties. So there's 13 community colleges that they can move, at least in terms of staying within the ESEPS network. So let me stop there and then we could go on with other things.
Well, in my next question, you touched on it a little bit, but what are some of the challenges and the benefits when it comes to hiring and employing youth apprentices?
Right. So the benefits are, like I said, the benefits are you're giving young people a chance to get real on-the-job training and a taste of what this is like. Because what you don't want is someone to spend a couple of years in high school, working and studying around something and come to the conclusion they're not interested. I mean, better they should come to that conclusion then than to go through 2 years of college. But usually they're pretty good at self-selecting and figuring out this is something I want to pursue or this is not. So either way, and like I said, it helps us to build the workforce of tomorrow, which is essential. Otherwise, we're being really short-sighted. But like I said, the challenge is that we can't actually offer them more than a pre-apprenticeship. And the key there is there are states in this country and a lot of countries around the world where youth apprenticeship is taken very seriously as a major high school pathway, where here it's really, we're just sort of figuring it out in this country. But even here in this country, there are certain states where as a junior, you will go to high school 3 days a week, and then you will work 2 days a week. And then as a senior, you will go to high school 2 days a week and work for 3 days a week. When you have that kind of flexibility, then you have the option of having a real youth apprenticeship, and you finish high school with 2,000 hours and a more advanced industry credential. So you really are career ready. You can still go on and get to an AA degree program, to a BA degree program. So one of the big challenges is how to work within the structure of the high schools as they currently exist and figure out ways for the young people to be able to actually earn 2,000 hours. The other challenge is in some industries, you could, like say in healthcare operates 24 hours a day, right? So theoretically, you could have a high school student who finishes school at 3:30 and then let's say shows up at 5 o'clock and puts in 5-6 hours a day. I mean, it'd be really stressful and really hard to get homework done, but it's theoretically possible. With early care and education, that's not possible because we can't, if they only can work, let's say starting at 3:30, 4 o'clock, they're going to go work in childcare programs where basically what's happening is a lot of free play and unstructured programs, which is great for the little ones. It's important for the young, the preschoolers and the infants and toddlers. But as a learning experience, we want them to be able to go when the class is sort of most structured and the program is most, they're going to learn the most about curriculum development, working with families, dealing with diverse cultures and diverse groups, health and nutrition, all the things that we want early educators to be trained in, which means they have to go in the morning. They have to be able to go from like 8 till noon, 8 till 1. So again, the challenge is how do you structure a high school program to allow for that? That's I think the biggest challenge at this point.
And from your perspective, what can California do to advance youth apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships?
Let me take the second part first. Advancing pre-apprenticeships, it's a matter of acknowledging them, recognizing them as making a really important contribution. By definition, a pre-apprenticeship is a program. It's the training somebody needs to master in order to qualify for the apprenticeship. And so if there are apprenticeships like in education where you can't just be left alone in the classroom with the child until you've got a certain amount of coursework under or job experience under your belt. So pre-apprenticeships need to be given the respect and consideration that they're due and not be thought of as like a throwaway. Part of that means funding pre-apprenticeships. And a lot of the current funding that's coming through the state, basically it either leaves out youth or it leaves out pre-apprentices or it leaves out both. So that's one issue. In particular, because with youth, a lot of employers don't have the money to pay those salaries. So you have to find summer youth jobs, things like that. And most of the pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship funding doesn't allow you to use it for stipends or for, the kind of, we call it a stipend because it's not very many hours, but to enable these apprenticeships to work. So that's one challenge. The other challenge is really in a completely different realm, which is that, and it's a challenge both for California and the national picture, the DOL. If you define youth as 16 to 24-year-olds, it's very deceiving. And I have often said, when I was 23, if you said to me, who do you have more in common with, a 28-year-old or a 17-year-old? I would have very, very strongly said I had more in common with a 27-year-old, 26-year-old. And I understand why that definition is what it is right now, but I can tell you that the Department of Labor, the Office of Apprenticeship, is having very big conversations about whether it makes sense to redefine youth apprenticeship, let's say for 16 to 18 or 16 to 20. And then 20-year-olds are adults especially even if they are in school, but they're adults by all other measures. So you might have a group that's all 20 to 24-year-olds where you can provide the supports and services that are thoughtful of the fact that they're on the younger end of things. But the supports and services, particularly when we're talking about in-school youth, the supports and services are so different when you're actually young by anyone's standards. And so I think that becomes a challenge for California in terms of expanding youth apprenticeship. This division between out-of-school youth and in-school youth, that's one thing that makes it more complicated. And then the fact that you're lumping 16-year-olds all the way to get up to 24-year-olds who could conceivably be college graduates by then. That's another, it poses like a structural challenge that just makes the development of these programs and the sustaining of them even more complicated.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Wolf. I really appreciate that you joined us today with your perspective, which again is unique on our panel today as an intermediary and a sponsor. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Now I'd like to introduce Cecilia Terrazas. Cecilia is the Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator for the Oakland Unified School District. Cecilia's work focuses on developing and advocating for system initiatives to increase employee diversity in Oakland schools. And she works with the Oakland Unified School District's Grow Your Own programs, including pre-apprenticeship for aspiring educators in high school, a classified to teacher program, and the Oakland Teacher Residency Program, among others. Hi, Cecilia. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Great. So the Oakland Unified School District has a number of apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs that are operating and some that are in development. So can you tell us about all of these exciting programs?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been partnering with Cypress Mandela for a number of years to run some of our apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeships in traditional construction and trades. And this year, we're really excited that we launched a pre-apprenticeship program that is specifically in support of early childhood and education with deep partnership with ESEPS and with Dr. Randy Wolf, who just spoke right now. They really have been supporting us in developing this pre-apprenticeship program that we've launched. We have 24 registered pre-apprenticeships this year, all throughout 7 high schools in our school district that are currently in a 1 to 2 year program. Our apprenticeships are in 11th grade and 12th grade. For those of our students who are in 11th grade, at the end of their first year, they will be receiving their associate teacher or their instructional assistant permit, and they will have 6 ECE units. And at the end of their second year, students will have their associate teacher permit. We are running what's called our dual enrollment. And so students are enrolled in high school and also in our dual enrollment classes during the week. And so they will take a total of 2 if they're in the program 1 year, or 4 classes that will really help them kind of explore, like Randy was talking about, this whole idea of like, are they interested? They've kind of stated that they're interested in working with children, youth, and families, and here they get an opportunity to do so. Every summer, they will be able to be in an internship that will really help them explore that. They will also be getting college credits for those units as well. We have a lot of supports embedded in each of those in that classroom. One is an OUSD staff member that is there present and really supporting with their success. We have an embedded tutor, and we partner really closely with Berkeley City College, the college in general, and also with the professor. We know her really well. She really supports our young people in really being successful. And then we'll kind of move along in each of our different classes that really support students and really kind of getting the most out of this. But also for a lot of our students, this is the first time they've ever taken a college class. So it's really exciting to see them in this first semester really gain the skills they need to be successful.
Great. And you talked a little bit about your partnerships, and I know that Oakland Unified has forged a great many partnerships that support your apprenticeship programs. Can you tell us a little bit about your partners and how their efforts have contributed to the success of these programs?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, ESEPS has been a really key fundamental partner in really helping us understand the world of apprenticeships what is this? It's been really, we have people in our district who've been doing it in a traditional sense. And so really kind of moving to this new arena has been new for us. And so they've been a really great partner. Berkeley City College has also been doing apprenticeships with the support of ESEPs as well. And so they've really also aided in us thinking about and dreaming about, like, what does our course sequence look like? What are the outcomes? So really being key partners in this work. Additionally, internally, we're 35,000 students, 5,000 employees. And so we're a huge organization. And so this has really allowed us to make really strong internal partnerships as well. So the high school network superintendent office, so we deepened our partnership with our organization, and they've really helped us make connections with site leaders at each of the different sites. So we're at 7 different high schools. So we really needed to be able to we're not at 7 different high schools. Sorry, I misspoke. 7 different high schools are coming together in an after school dual enrollment class to meet weekly. And so we really needed key partnerships at each of the sites. And so to not only get support from their site leaders, but also their staff to really kind of enable them to meet weekly at each of our sites. We have a really robust linked learning office that has really supported like these pathway developments. We're pathway schools. Each of our schools has its own pathway. And so being able to connect with the work-based learning liaisons also at each of the different schools that we're at has really helped not only in recruitment, but also in providing wraparound services. So our students come with a lot of different things. They're brilliant. They've got a lot of drive, and there's a lot of things that kind of create barriers for young people to be successful. So really having the ability to connect with each of the different sites has been really key. Also, in terms of our summer learning, we have what's called a ECHO program. So every summer through Linked Learning Department, they run a summer internship that is paid for our students throughout different kinds of internships throughout the city. And so we've partnered with them to really begin to help our pre-apprenticeships figure out what community organizations might be a best fit for them, what district level CDCs will be also great opportunities for them to be having their internships. So that's been a really solid and strong partnership as well. And then the last one that has been also really key for us is our dual enrollment office. So we've been doing dual enrollment in Oakland Unified School District for many years. It's a very robust department, and it's been really successful in terms of all of our high schools have college classes that are embedded within the school day. And so our partnership with them has really solidified in this year with this program, where they really also supported us and like, hey, this is what's been successful. We run district-wide programs already that are semester or year long, and here's things that have worked for us. And recently we met with the dual enrollment office in one of our high schools to really think about how do we integrate it within the school day, because there are a lot of challenges to getting students after school to meet in a particular spot. How do we integrate within the school day, within their pathway, which is like a community health and education pathway? How do we integrate that a lot more so that way students during the school day have increased access and we're at their site, and then access to also wraparound services. So that's really exciting through their leadership that they've supported us.
And just a little follow-up on those supportive services. How do the supportive services within your programs help to remove barriers for high school students?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there are lots of barriers of finding success. Particularly, we have students who are first generation students. We have students who English is their second language. And so providing a variety of services is the only way we're going to find success working with this population. So one of the things that we offer is laptops, and the laptops are really necessary because the district offers Chromebooks, which provides some challenges, but we've been able to offer some PCs for all of our students. Students also have access to hotspots. So they meet once a week in person, but there's a lot of asynchronous time that students need to be completing their assignments. So we offer them hotspots, we offer them bus passes. We also have, like I said, there's an embedded tutor. So not only is she supporting and taking notes in the class, but she's also translating notes. She also is offering asynchronous tutoring times for students. There is also, there are 2 success coordinators that are also, because they're spread out, we're pushing out to really offer one-on-one academic counseling, mentoring, tutoring, to really support students in, meeting the expectations of a college classroom, which is really challenging for so many of our students for a variety of different reasons. I think being in a cohort and really allowing them to kind of be together, lean on one another, support each other, and then of course engaging with their families and letting their families know here's where they're at, here's where they're succeeding, here's some things that can really support them. And then the last thing I'll also talk about is we provide wraparound services. Oakland Unified School District, we're a community schools district, and so all of our schools have a team of service providers who really try to identify if there are barriers for young people in being successful academically. Then we have a team of folks who really support them. So this is where the connection to each of the sites is super critical, so that way if we have a student that we encounter in a class whose grandfather passed away, and so they're struggling coming to class, we can reach out to their school site and really ask, hey, the student is struggling. Is there, a therapist they can see? Can somebody check in with them because you're with them daily? So one of the known adults. And so really offering those wraparound services are critical to overcoming some of the barriers our students encounter.
Yeah, those services are so important. Thank you so much for joining us today and telling us about the Oakland Unified School District's programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And next, I would like to introduce Allison Frenzel. Allison is an education program specialist with the California Department of Education's Academy Apprenticeship and Internship Office. Her work is centered around increasing access to industry-connected opportunities, including youth apprenticeship programs within the arts, media, and entertainment industry. Allison is also a member of the California Youth Apprenticeship Committee and the chair of the In-School Youth Apprenticeship Working Group. Hi, Allison. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for having me.
The California Department of Education has youth apprenticeship grants and is actively investing in youth apprenticeship programs. Can you tell us about some of those programs?
Yeah, so actually we have several programs that we've been working towards, and ultimately the goal, they're all pilot initiatives right now, and ultimately the goal is to create competency-based programs that align CTE pathways in public high schools with registered occupations. So this is like, it totally takes a village. I just want to commend and applaud everybody on this panel so far. I think a lot of this has to do understanding best practices, which we've heard a little bit about today. But ultimately, it involves working with registered program sponsors and employers to better understand the required prerequisite skills and competencies that students need to be work ready. So a little history. I am the arts, media, and entertainment industry sector lead, and this work was actually born out of our industry sector advisory work in 2020. And was like radically propelled forward when SB 628, the Creative Workforce Act of 2021, was signed into law. So that act actually established creative workforce development as a state priority and allowed us to kind of dig deep and work with employers and nonprofit intermediaries to figure this thing out in a totally weird industry that has never been done before. And so, as I stated, a lot of it has been research and understanding the landscape and the language of workforce, which does not always match the language of CTE, and then figuring out how do we backwards map stuff into public schools. So the original goal was to engage this advisory and learn about current sector workforce needs and update our model curriculum standards for K-12 AME. But what happened was it evolved into developing a guidance document that's now being used in both high school and community colleges. We've established a network of registered apprenticeship programs that are statewide. 2020, if nothing else, taught us that it's a virtual workforce. So we need to start thinking broadly and increase equity and access to some of these jobs that can be done remotely from anywhere. So that was the lens. And we actually just recently built the first ever high road training partnership for the entertainment industry, which was also part of this work. So since 2019, the sector has registered 35 new occupations with the DOL across film, animation, music, and gaming industries. And our last two programs are currently moving through DAS processes, and then everything will be state approved. And some of our employers that have just like said, we're going to figure this out, include Warner Brothers Discovery, Paramount, Live Nation, and Netflix. And ultimately, this whole effort has led to these employers removing barriers to entry and embracing apprenticeship as a new pipeline strategy in an industry that's never done that before, at least not with registered programs. So it's kind of a huge win for the sector. And I think ultimately the goal is to look at this in like I said, a really atypical sector and figure out how we can mirror it in all sectors for CTE. And so we've started in 2024. So the AME Workforce Training Initiative includes 29 pilot high school AME pathways that will be registering as pre-apprenticeship programs this year in 2024 or next year. And that work involves developing model course outlines that the state can share that will map CTE to pre-apprenticeship competency-based learning. And also, as a lot of people said today, the community college piece is clutch. I mean, we need to understand how to work collaboratively with the chancellor's office and all of the efforts they've invested in building more opportunities for youth. And so figuring out all the opportunities for dual enrollment is going to be a huge part of this work. And then, as Amy mentioned, in 2023, CDE is very invested in apprenticeship. Our director, Pete Callis, and my manager, Maria Burright, have done all kinds of work to make sure that this is a priority. We've opened a new office in the Career and College Transition Division called the Academy Apprenticeship and Internship Office, and we've expanded the pilot to include 21 California partnership academies in construction trades, hospitality, and health careers. And we're going to be working with program coordinators all year to identify best practices and opportunities for these programs in their regions.
Great. Turning a little bit now, you've been a very important member of the California Youth Apprenticeship Committee, which has been advising the Division of Apprenticeship Standards and the state on how to expand youth apprenticeship. Can you tell us a little bit about your work with that committee?
Absolutely. It's been my honor to serve. I have learned so much from all the experts in the field and all the different youth apprenticeship models that we've been able to share out in this work from different parts of the world and different states in the country. So my role as the chair of the In-School Youth Committee is really about facilitating discussions and understanding the different challenges and possibilities for youth apprenticeship in K-12 settings. And I think as Randy and Pam and some of the other speakers have really uncovered the challenges and expressed them very articulately, I think there's a lot of work to be done. But the first part is understanding how we can find solutions to those challenges. And so I think that's the intention of this committee, is really thinking forward, thinking about possibilities, thinking about how we can solve some of the different roadblocks that have presented over the last couple of years as we built out apprenticeship in non-traditional spaces. I think the most significant and memorable aspect of the committee work for me is the stakeholder engagement piece. The discussions we have are very rich. We've unpacked so many different considerations, and every member of the committee has been an active participant. The committee is very diverse in perspective and experience, and I feel like it's been really great to hear where different folks are coming from. And Adele and her team have done an excellent job in engaging the public. So, you know, overall, we have a lot of work to do, and there's a long road ahead, but I think the collaboration is key, and understanding that there's so many layers and levels of work to this ultimate goal of meeting the governor's goals. And we're moving forward. So
What do you see as the important work ahead for the California Youth Apprenticeship Committee?
Yeah, so I think some of our most important work will involve examining both education and labor code to identify potential barriers for public schools that exist currently. I think we need to make sure that all of the recommendations that establish implementation models make sense for schools, and be mindful of the fact that schools have a lot of things that they do. They are responsible for the education component, and there's so much more to that apprenticeship conversation than just the educational component. As Pam talked about, and Randy and Celia, it takes a village. In the models that we've implemented, there's a network of really deeply industry connected nonprofits that have stepped up. The Brick Foundation, Music Forward Foundation, even the Handy Foundation, and said, you know what, we will help support integration in public schools by providing work-based learning, but also we are the program sponsors for these apprenticeship programs. So really trying to figure out, how do we effectively bridge school and work? And currently the model that I think Randy spoke to this really well. The model that we're implementing is pre-apprenticeship in high school. 16 to 24 is a large age range. And so if we can make sure all prerequisite learning happens during CTE, and that those students have like first look priority into registered apprenticeship programs, it's a win. But as far as the work ahead goes, I mean, we need to look at some of the, as I mentioned, some of the barriers that are prohibiting, making it really difficult to get employers to say, yes, we will hire a 16-year-old, because that is absolute truth in my world. It's been challenging. So I think another big piece of the work ahead is supporting K-12 LEAs with understanding the definitions. What is youth apprenticeship? What is the difference between apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship? What are the requirements? What's the difference between a competency-based, a hybrid, and a time-based program, right? There's so many complexities that are not part of our K-12 school vocabulary right now. And when I started in this space, I realized that we have a whole other set of acronyms in workforce that we don't use. So I think the education piece is going to be monumental. And then, you know, ultimately ensuring that our opportunity youth are served in the state. I think that has been echoed in every community, in every committee meeting. So this is going to include identifying necessary wraparound services, educating employers, and definitely identifying flexible funding for nonprofits that are boots on ground trying to support populations across the state. And then finally, like something that's been a really important part of my work is collaborating with our labor partners to ensure that these are quality jobs, and that they have a voice in the conversation in the non-traditional spaces, as in a similar way that they have a voice in the traditional spaces. So I think those are some of the biggest things that we have to look forward to in this work. And I appreciate the support that the state has put in to make sure that we are working together for this common cause.
And you heard us talk with the director at the top a little bit about the governor's executive order regarding career readiness, which acknowledges that there is an urgent need to align and integrate the state's efforts. It takes a village, right? To your point. So how can cross-agency collaboration maximize the efficiency and benefit the investments that the state is making to the individuals directly served by them, and really to all Californians?
Sure. I can't really speak to the executive order. I'm going to defer that to my director, Pete Callis. But what I can do is speak to the work that DAS and CDE have done to really ensure systems and communications alignment around youth apprenticeship. And I can't express how appreciative I am of this partnership. I consider Paul and Adele and the team to be my teachers in this space, truly. And Kelly, the support we've had from DAS to just get to know the space, to understand all of the intricacies of apprenticeship has been invaluable information. And collaboration. And so I know and understand K-12 CTE, but learning how to navigate this land of workforce development and apprenticeship has opened up so many possibilities for our students in California. And so it kind of started when I was doing some research on apprenticeship and CTE, and just like reached out to DAS randomly and said, hey, are there any registered occupations in this sector? And when I learned that there were not, I realized that we had a lot of work to do with industry to start building and backwards mapping into K-12. So that's been the focus of our collaboration, our cross-agency collaboration. Some other examples of the cross-agency collaboration include how we've worked to ensure that all the CTE sectors, as we call them at CDE, have been assigned the appropriate DAS representatives to answer all of our questions, which has been amazing. DAS has facilitated several informational sessions with CDE consultants about their different funding models and all of the requirements of apprenticeship. And for the last 2 years, they've supported the development of all of my AME apprenticeships, which has been a sometimes Sisyphean effort, I'll just say. And ultimately, you know, this interagency collaboration extends to the chancellor's office. I got to shout out Sean McCobb and Gary over there, who have been excellent partners, thought partners, helping me understand the space and what they're up to, and making sure that we're working lockstep instead of in silos. Ultimately, I have to also thank the California Workforce Development Board with the Higher Training Partnership work, because again, that extended our interagency collaboration to make sure that we're understanding all of the different systems, we're learning from each other, and we're working in unison for the common goal. And ultimately, it's really crucial that we understand how all of these grant programs and systems can work together and create a viable school to career pathway for our students in California.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Allison. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now I'd like to introduce Adele Burns. In her role as the Deputy Chief for the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, Adele is focused on policy and strategy to expand apprenticeship in California and to create a more equitable and accessible ramp into a wide variety of careers, from the building trades to healthcare, technology, education, public sector, and every sector of our economy. Welcome, Adele. Tell us a little bit, tell us about the latest updates on the California Youth Apprenticeship Grant. Oh, we can't hear you. Into each webinar, a little technological difficulty must fall. All right, we'll just give Adele a minute. Oh, I think we can hear you now. We heard you for a second there. Oh, there you are.
But now, yes?
There we go.
Okay, all right.
Welcome.
So it goes. All right, happy National Apprenticeship Week, and thank you, Amy, and really to all of our panelists here. It's just wonderful to hear from the array of stakeholders bringing this work alive in the ecosystem. So just huge gratitude to everyone here. So I am very excited today to be sharing some breaking news about our California Opportunity Youth Apprenticeship Grant. So this, as Allison very nicely outlined in our California Youth Apprenticeship Committee, we have run a whole public comment process around how we most effectively utilize this funding to try to increase access for opportunity youth into our apprenticeship system. So if we go to the next slide. So this process was kicked off with some legislation that initially funded this work and really kicked off a lot of the work that we've heard about here today. And like I said, we ran a whole public comment process a few months back and have been working really hard to incorporate all of that public comment into designing this this grant program. So the grant program is called the California Opportunity Youth Apprenticeship. COYA is our acronym here. So this is the COYA grant. And the overall objective of this is really, like I said, to invite opportunity youth into the apprenticeship system and really to see how it can have an impact on opportunity youth and lifting them up and giving them employment opportunities. So the first round of the COYA grant, I'm going to share here the overall framework of it so that folks can start getting organized to apply for this funding. We're aiming to actually open up the funding and to release the solicitation in January, at the latest February 2024, but we're going to really try hard for January. And this first round of funding is going to have $25 million made available. So if you go to the next slide, the enabling legislation that made this happen was the budget bill, AB 178, and then an additional allocation in the current budget year. And the overall framing for this, which is what we put forth in the public comment process, was that this is both for new and existing apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs, but really the objective is to get opportunity youth connected into apprenticeship opportunities. And it was also very clearly put forth that the grant program, that services shall be delivered primarily through collaborative, mission-driven, community-based organizations, and most importantly, that have experience providing services to opportunity youth and helping get them into employment. So these are some of the really core guiding principles. And also importantly put forth in the framing of the funding was that this grant program does not apply to the building and construction trades programs. So this is really going to go towards all the other sectors of the economy that in apprenticeship world, we call IACA programs sometimes. So if you go to the next slide, so we took in all of the public comment and came up with this framework. So we're going to have essentially two categories of the funding. Well, really, it's four categories of the funding. We have planning grants and then implementation grants. And then within each of these two categories, there is a pre-apprenticeship grant and an apprenticeship grant. So the planning grants, the pre-apprenticeship grant will be up to $300,000 in funding, and the apprenticeship grant will be up to $500,000 in funding. And our aim here is for those to be one, maximum 2-year performance periods, because it's a planning grant, right? So the idea of this is to get organized and get things established. And then the implementation grant, both categories, both pre-apprenticeship grants and apprenticeship grants, have a range of $500K to $2 million. And we imagine that this is going to be a 3-year grant period on the implementation grants. And we got a lot of feedback in the public comment period about sort of the structure of the funding and how it's harder for nonprofits and community-based organizations to only function on a reimbursement model, which is how a lot of public funding goes. And so our creative response to this is that all grants will be paid 25% of the grant with the approved first quarter progress report. And then after that, it will be quarterly reimbursements of actual costs with, of course, the last 25% of actual costs reported, but not reimbursed because they were paid in that first quarter. So this is our creative attempt to hopefully make a more feasible funding structure for those community-based organizations that we're hoping are stepping up in this moment. And so we have heard all the feedback and tried to incorporate that. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about each of these to just give you a sense of them. So if we go to the next slide. So the eligible applicants for all of the grant categories are that any entity that's applying for this funding has to demonstrate a history of at least 2 years of serving opportunity youth and have demonstrated success in supporting opportunity youth into employment. So this is really the most important thing that we're going to be evaluating in this grant process, is that we want to see that the applicants have this history of serving opportunity youth. And with that in mind, the list of eligible entity types include community-based organizations, nonprofits, workforce boards, unions, the different branches of our education system, It could be apprenticeship intermediaries and apprenticeship program sponsors. One note is that for-profit entities are not eligible for this funding. So these are eligible applicants. If you go to the next slide, I will go a little bit into the different grant structures. So first, looking at the planning grants. So the pre-apprenticeship planning grants are going to be helping, really the objective of the planning grants here is to help eligible applicants to develop pre-apprenticeship programs that lead to an apprenticeship, right? That's what we're trying to do here. So that means that the starting point for the grant will be that an organization identifies a target registered apprenticeship program to develop that partnership with, and therefore the completion of the planning grant will be an MOU with a registered apprenticeship program, which of course is the key component of also registering your pre-apprenticeship with us at the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. So that's the pre-apprenticeship planning grant. And then the apprenticeship planning grant, there's sort of two objectives on this one. One is to potentially support with the creation of a new registered apprenticeship program that is specifically aiming to source opportunity youth apprentices. So that could be one use of the apprenticeship planning grant, or it could be for to support a community-based organization or a similar such organization to be a sourcing partner and a supportive services partner to an existing registered apprenticeship program. And we're really thinking about how can we be inviting those organizations out there that have experience serving opportunity youth and having their services be connected into existing apprenticeship programs. So therefore, the starting point on this planning grant would be a target occupation and employer group, or employer group who wants to hire apprentices, or an identified registered apprenticeship partner for that organization who's planning to offer those sourcing of opportunity youth and supportive services for the opportunity youth in an existing apprenticeship program. And then, of course, the MOU would therefore be either a registered apprenticeship program or that MOU that formalizes that sourcing and supportive services partnership. So this is our planning grant. And if we go to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about the implementation grants. So this first is about the pre-apprenticeship implementation grants. So the objective here is really to be supporting effective pre-apprenticeship programs that have strong linkages to registered apprenticeship programs and that are really prioritizing supportive services and training, recruitment of opportunity youth, and of course, and also, and this is, as Randy was speaking earlier, we do want to see the potential for paid training in the context of pre-apprenticeships, because we really heard that loud and clear in the public comment process, that a lot of opportunity youth can't not earn, but really need a pre-apprenticeship to get prepared. And so the requirements on the pre-apprenticeship side are going to be that the pre-apprenticeship must be registered with DAS. Therefore, as part of that, it needs to have an MOU linkage to a registered program, a registered apprenticeship program. For the sake of this grant, we are saying that it cannot exceed 6 months, because we really want to be seeing pre-apprenticeship programs place apprentices as soon as possible. And for the sake of this grant, there can be no paid on-the-job time, but there will be an educational stipend allowed during the classroom training, because we recognize that many opportunity youth can't afford not to be earning. So, and we're intending for this funding to be able to go partly towards that. So again, the range is anywhere from $500K to $2 million on these implementation grants. And on the pre-apprenticeship side, we're allowing $12,000 per pre-apprentice, and that's being split into two categories. One is $6,000 per pre-apprentice to cover supportive services, training, recruitment, really kind of all of the costs of running your program and supporting pre-apprentices. And then we're allocating up to $6,000 per pre-apprentice to go towards an educational stipend during that pre-apprenticeship training. And we want to see 100% of this funding go to the pre-apprentice. That's very important. And also important to note that this is not a wage supplement, because pre-apprenticeships in this context should not have paid OJT, but rather the intent of this funding is that it's an educational stipend to participants during training. So that is the implementation grant for pre-apprenticeship. And then if we shift to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the implementation grant for apprenticeship. So in the case of an apprenticeship implementation grant, we're really looking to support both effective apprenticeship programs that are sourcing and specifically serving opportunity youth. And also we want to be allowing community-based organizations and similar such organizations to create that formal partnership with a registered apprenticeship program to recruit participants and offer supportive services. So we, again, like the planning grant in the implementation side of this, we're sort of allowing those two contexts for the funding. So therefore the eligible applicants, in addition to demonstrating that history of serving opportunity youth, need to either be a registered apprenticeship program with DAS, again, specifically sourcing opportunity youth for your program, or you can be a community-based organization or similar such organization that has an MOU with a registered apprenticeship program for recruitment and supportive services for opportunity youth apprentices. So this is part of why we wanted to be sharing this information here. It's certainly exciting to be sharing this in National Apprenticeship Week, but we also recognize that there is planning and relationship forming and MOU articulating and potentially registering with DAS that may need to happen in order for folks to apply for these different categories of funding, which is why we wanted to be sure to give you this preview of things ahead of time. So the funding details on the apprenticeship implementation side is that, again, range of $500K to $2 million. In the case of apprenticeship, it's up to $10,000 per apprentice. And we're really looking for this to go primarily to supportive services for opportunity youth. And also funding to get a program like launched and scaled, but we're really going to be giving funding priority to those who are utilizing more of this funding for supportive services, because especially on this apprenticeship side of things, we are fully expecting that you're going to be braiding this with other funding, such as the apprenticeship innovation funding or other funding sources that you may have access to get your program up and running. Hopefully you're also leveraging either related and supplemental instruction funding or AIF training funding or full-time equivalent student funding to pay for the training. So really what we're hoping that this funding source goes towards is that supportive services that are so key for opportunity youth to be successful in apprenticeship. So if you go to the next slide, finally, the populations that we're really looking to serve here are opportunity youth. And I know that opportunity youth can be a big umbrella term. So we wanted to be sure to define it really concretely for the sake of this grant. So we are defining opportunity youth as youth 16 to 24 years old, who are either already disconnected from our education system or at risk of disconnection from our education system. So what you see here on the left is really what was in the framing of the initial legislation. So how we're looking to implement this in our grants is that we need all grantees to be demonstrating that the participants that they're serving through this grant, they are showing proof of, being age eligible at the beginning of the program, so 16 to 24, and that they meet one of the following criteria, so that they are either current or formerly foster youth, current or formerly Pell eligible, currently or formerly WIOA eligible, currently or formerly enrolled in a Title I school, residing in a high poverty census tract, formerly incarcerated, a youth parent, or a person with a disability. So this is how we're going to be defining and sort of double checking and requesting reporting around the participants served. So if you go to the next slide, so the next steps here, so that is the preview that we have. Again, very excited to share this preview during National Apprenticeship Week. I know I just covered a lot of information, but I'm very happy to report that this whole thing has been recorded and we will be posting and sharing this webinar. So the next key steps for you all, now that you've seen the framing of this, please help us to spread the word about it. Gather your partnerships so that you can start getting organized to apply for one of these categories of funding. Get your programs registered, your apprenticeships, but also your pre-apprenticeship programs registered. Again, we're looking to open up this solicitation in January or February of 2024. And if you want to get the updates on this, please sign up for the DAS newsletter to get updates. And we'll leave the slide up here for a minute so you can take note of the URL. And one thing I will just say, Director Hagan at the beginning mentioned a lot of the different sources of funding that we have for apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship and youth apprenticeship. I do want to call out that right now, the California Apprenticeship Initiative grants are open. And if you are part of the sort of body of work of in-school youth apprenticeship, I would highly encourage you to be going for those California Apprenticeship Initiative grants. Those are fantastic grants for funding programs like PAM-NAPS that are in our education system. So our K-12s and our community colleges are eligible to go for those CAI grants. I know that many CAI grants have already gone to early stage planning and implementation grants for new youth apprenticeship programs. This particular grant that I've talked about today is really thinking about how to serve opportunity youth, right? It's in the title, the California Opportunity Youth Apprenticeship Grant Program. And so the focus of this is really on how we're helping those folks who are more disconnected from our education system get connected back in, hopefully to employment and maybe even back into our education system through the mechanism of apprenticeship. So with that, I will hand it back to Amy. And again, thank you so much to all of the speakers today, and a huge happy National Apprenticeship Week to everyone.
Thank you for that update. That's great. And I'm sure when that solicitation comes out, we will be sending it out to our community. Thank you. This has been a great conversation today. Thank you so much to all of our panelists who are just doing so much to help build youth apprenticeship in California. And if you're interested in starting a youth apprenticeship program, or if you have any questions about what we covered today, please feel free to email us at das@dir.ca.gov. Happy National Apprenticeship Week, everyone.